Can everybody hear me? Give me a thumbs up. All right. Thank you all so very much for being here today, for taking time out of your day to come learn about value propositions and hang out with me. I really wish we could all be in person and that I could meet each of you in person, but I do invite you all to go ahead, if you're comfortable, and turn on your cameras, because one of the things about being a virtual speaker is that the feedback from the crowd is definitely a little bit more limited. So if you are comfortable, let me see your shining lovely faces. And I also wanted to share that if you do have questions as we go throughout today's presentation, please feel free to drop them in the chat. And if we're not able to get to them within that point in the session, we can definitely address them when we get to the Q&A session at the end of the session. So does everyone see my screen here? Good? Yay. Okay, great. Another couple of disclaimers. This is real life. I have animals. They make noises. We're all working from home. So if you hear a peep of a bird or a bark of a dog, I do apologize, but just bear with me. This is the new normal. And, you know, if you all have animals or children or family members at home, it's totally okay. You know, we're all navigating this together. So hello, Amanda, thank you for that great bio. Yes, indeed, I did get my start in the professional world as a musician, and I did learn a lot about hustle as a result of that. Definitely learning how to put yourself out there, learning how to put your best bet forward. The fun fact that I always use when doing an icebreaker with new people is my first paid job actually out in the professional world was as a burning cowboy in a theater production in Texas. So I'm definitely, I wouldn't say a fearless person, but I'm not afraid to take a chance. And yes, I live in Raleigh with my husband, my dog Rue, and our bird Petey. Who only likes to peep up when I'm on very important video calls. So we'll see if Petey makes a cameo today. So now that you've heard a little bit about me and what we're going to be talking about today, which is value propositions in business and beyond, I am curious to hear from this group why you are here today, so that we can help guide the conversation to help you get, you know, the most out of this hour that you've set aside. So feel free to drop some answers in the Zoom chat. On your Zoom window, you should see a little chat icon there. Can I get a show of hands for people who are in sales roles right now? No, no one? Anyone maybe an entrepreneur or running their own business and maybe newer to selling?
All right, so Rachel says that she is always eager to learn about marketing and sales.
Excellent.
Anybody else?
Y'all just want to hang out and take a break from work. That's cool too. You know what?
Every day. We've got two more.
That's okay.
Deanna says she's always ready to be inspired by Sara. Roni is interested in potentially starting their own business. Elizabeth is a small business owner and can always improve on how she conveys her value proposition.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for those contributions, and we'll try and keep those in mind as we proceed today. So, how do we think about sales? I think in general, sales can be a little bit scary. Sales can perhaps give you funny tummy feelings. I'm curious, what are some words or feelings you all might use when you hear the word salesperson? And again, feel free to drop these in the chat. Amanda, you're on mute.
We've got pitch.
Pitch, yep.
Someone that's really charismatic.
Great.
Money making.
These are positive.
Yeah.
For the most part, positive. That's
Anybody
good.
Else?
Anybody, does sales make anybody nervous?
Oh, someone said a bit annoying and disgust.
Yeah.
There you go, Angela.
Yeah, it's true.
Assertive,
right?
maybe aggressive.
Yeah, totally. I think a lot of us are conditioned to think of sort of that like used car salesman or the telemarketer that's calling you in the middle of dinner, or definitely in our culture, sales can get kind of a bad rap. So no wonder it makes us nervous if, you know, the feelings you might associate with interacting with a salesperson kind of are yucky. So what is sales though, really? What does it mean to be a great salesperson? To sell well is to convince someone else to part with resources. And that could be financial resources, it could be time, could be bandwidth. Not to deprive that person, but to leave him better off in the end. And I wanted to share this quote with you all by Dan Pink from one of my favorite books that I've read throughout my professional career, called To Sell is Human. And what Dan talks about in his book actually is that no matter who you are or what your role is, you are always selling, actually, because sales is really a concept about moving people. It's not really about baiting and switching. I mean, I know that a lot of companies out there can have sales models that feel aggressive, or that feel, you know, not great to be on the receiving end of, but truly it is about moving people. And so how would you possibly move someone, right? How are you supposed to get someone to part with their precious resources? And that's where having a strong value proposition really comes into play. So that's what we're going to talk about. Is anybody brand new to this term, value proposition? Seems like maybe you do know what it means. So what is a value proposition? You could find a bunch of different definitions on Google, but through my time in a sales position, this is what I've really come to understand it to mean. A value proposition at its core is how you solve your customer's problem and how you do it differently than anybody else. It goes into the deeper, why should someone become your customer? What's in it for them? And I do want to make a very important distinction, because what a value proposition is not, it is not what you do. So at Cloud Giants, for example, where I run the sales initiative, we are Salesforce consultants, but that's not going to convince anybody to work with us. That doesn't tell a customer why they should become our customer or a potential customer. So I think a lot of times this can get misconstrued with an elevator pitch, which is, as many of you may know, like a 2 or 3 sentence summary of what you do that you could articulate to somebody in the time it takes to ride on an elevator, right? A value proposition really dives into the why. And truly, as a salesperson, you are a problem solver. You are in service to your prospect and to your customer. So as you think about what is my value proposition and why does that really matter, we're going to talk about getting into the shoes of our customer. And I would also challenge the thinking that sales is yucky, because sales is actually awesome. You are the solution to your best customer's biggest problem. You could really make a difference in their lives. So if you are newer to sales, or you are running your own business, I'm sure you know you've been through this journey a few times, and a sales process does typically vary depending on your industry or the role that you play. But generally it goes a little something like this. You have a product or a service, and there's people out there that could benefit from that product or service. And so there's a bit of education or interest generating initially when someone's getting to know you. Then there's going to be that first point of contact between the two of you, whether it's a referral or they find you online. I think a lot of people find us at Cloud Giants because they Google, I need Salesforce help in Raleigh. And our marketing queen, Shelby Fanning, does such a fabulous job with our website that it's able to meet that user where they are, where they're searching for us. Or we also receive a lot of referrals from our fabulous customers. Why you're awesome. So once someone gets into contact with you, they do want to understand Why is this product or service going to help me? How is it going to help me? How is it going to make my life better? And why should I be convinced to part with my precious resources? To go back to Dan Pink. There's generally then a discussion of pricing at some point, because most sales at some point do include an exchange of currency. And then we have a decision and you get your new customer. So,
Hey, Sarah, we've got a
yeah,
quick question.
yes.
So when you don't have enough insight to a customer's specific problem, how can you necessarily present a value proposition and not your elevator pitch?
Ooh, great question. Great question. And I might answer this question with another question, which would be, have you ever considered asking an existing customer or maybe a friend more about their problem so that you can learn a little bit more, and asking them questions that start with why? And I also think it depends on what the product or service is that you're selling, how you might go about doing that. But that's really important. Yeah, you do want to understand more about your customer. And to me, the best place to start would be just to find someone who fits that role and ask that question directly from a place of curiosity. And what I have learned over the course of a sales career, when you ask for a sale, you get advice. And when you ask for advice, you get some good karma, which sometimes can lead to a sale. So when you are legitimately coming to a conversation asking for help, people really do want to help you, even if they don't even, they may or may not know you directly. Hopefully that was a helpful answer. Could be a lot of ways that one could go, depending on some different pieces. Great. So when should you use a value proposition? And the answer is literally all the time, all the time. So in every part of a sales process, in every part of a customer journey, they should be getting tapped into why they have chosen you. For us at Cloud Giants, this definitely comes into play with the marketing materials we have. This comes into play with the initial conversations we have with people. This comes into play with how I create sales proposals. And then it definitely comes into play once they actually say yes and become our customer to working with us. As we think about creating it, we're going to get to the specific ingredients here in just a second. This really is true. Sales is that's why I love this book, To Sell is Human. I would highly recommend it. Love this book. As you think about creating your own value proposition or refining your value proposition, people buy emotionally. They really do. They buy coming generally from a place of pain or to get to a better place that they can see, and you are the gap between the two. So they buy based on emotions, and then they rationalize that later with their brain. As a salesperson, you can list all the rational reasons why it would make perfect sense for someone to buy what you're selling. But if it's not tapping into their emotional pain, it doesn't matter. Humans don't work that way. It is a really fascinating study. So this is going back to that question about maybe not knowing enough about the problem. I would think really critically about your customer and think really empathetically about your customer as a salesperson. I think as in general, we may not have been on the end of many sales conversations as a prospect where we felt like the salesperson was super empathetic and really understood us and really understood what our problem was. Why are they feeling that pain? How could you imagine how it could possibly affect them as a person? I have a great example, actually, because I'm now realizing I'm talking about a lot of like conceptual things. My husband runs a restaurant and brewery in Raleigh, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And oftentimes I do help out. It has a large outdoor patio. I'm realizing that I'm going to tell you an example that's probably inappropriate, but here we are in the middle of the story. So I'm just going to keep going. It's hot. We get hot. We sweat a lot. And a lot of times as a woman, you experience some chafing if you're wearing a dress. And so it was presented to me that there was a product similar to Spanx that would help reduce that pain and create a super easy breezy, beautiful experience for me helping out at the brewery. What a great solution to my problem. And the way that it was marketed and packaged, honestly, and it came to me at just the right time, it ended up being a really great solution. I had an emotional problem. I was in pain. I was super uncomfortable. I went ahead and made that purchase out of that emotional place and justified intellectually later that, oh, that was totally worth it because I'm going to be helping out at the brewery for the next, I don't know, as long as we're married, I suppose. People buy emotionally and justify intellectually. This is where it'd be really great to be in person with you guys because this virtual thing is really hard, not getting a ton of I'm not, not getting a ton of human feedback, but I'm trusting that you're all still with me in this journey. All right, let's talk about some more work appropriate examples of value propositions. I've mentioned Cloud Giants a few times where I am the Director of Business Development. Is anyone here familiar with Salesforce, or does anyone use Salesforce? Get a show of hands. Yeah? So those of you who are not familiar with Salesforce, it is a very large customer relationship management platform. It is a very robust system that can help your business keep track of your customers, what they buy, and how you engage with them at its core. And CRM platforms like this generally are really big investments for business. And so what we do at Cloud Giants is help our customers go through the process of either implementing it for the first time or customizing it to actually fit their business processes. So you can think about it like building a custom house. So building a custom house takes an architect to build the blueprint, a contractor, a construction team, all of the specialists around plumbing and electricity and gas and anything else. And in addition to building the house and making sure that it works for you living in the house, there's maintenance that needs to go along with the house as time goes on. So a lot of businesses actually, could you imagine doing that by yourself? I mean, if you had the skill set where you're like, oh, cool, I built a raised bed in my garden, I could totally build a custom house. It is not the same thing. And a lot of businesses do approach building out their Salesforce platform without any help, without considering bringing in an expert who's done it time and time and time again, who can go through, help you uncover the pitfalls, help you do it in a way that actually really is setting you up so that it's a house where you want to live and you enjoy living, that's optimized for your needs. And for us, we've been doing it for over 15 years. We've got some deep knowledge and expertise. And then we build trust because as consultants, a part of our proven process actually is to push back. When we are talking about building out this customized implementation, we do push back on our customers after uncovering their process to say, maybe you don't need to buy this piece of technology within this ecosystem because we could do this solution that's better and more cost-effective and more scalable for you as a solution. So if anyone uses Salesforce and would love to talk with us about helping, hit me up towards the end of this conversation. I'd be happy to share more with you. But perhaps another more relatable example of a value proposition could be within the brewery, as I've mentioned. So Y Hill Kitchen and Brewing is in downtown Raleigh, and we'll be reopening June 17th. It's been a really tough time for the restaurant industry for sure, but we're still married, so that's great. So who likes to eat and drink? Yes. Who would love nothing more in a coronavirus-free world than to get out of your house, go sit on a nice patio, and enjoy a nice cocktail with your friends or significant other? Am I right? Am I right? I know. I know. So the problem is We've been stuck inside. We've only seen friends and family. It comes at a risk to gather with your friends. And who is sick of doing the dishes? I mean, oh my gosh, like, so these are all real emotional problems that we are experiencing right now. And the solution that Y Hill offers, the value that Y Hill offers is we have an outdoor patio where you can have plenty of space. You can, we will feed you delicious food and cocktails with no cleanup, and we will provide you an opportunity to feel comfort and connection with friends and family, which we've all been desperately missing. So now we're going to build our own. We're going to do a little breakout session here, folks. And what we're going to think about when building our value proposition is how you solve your customer's problem, and there might be some deeper questioning that is required here, and what makes you special. What makes you really stand out from other folks in the landscape that might do something similar? Or if you are a business owner, why did you start the business? What was the gap that you saw that you felt you had a solution to solve, that you had a solution to? And we're going to get together in groups, and I'd like you all to write down 3 things. And if you do have pen and paper available, I would really encourage you to physically write it down, because magical things happen in your brain when you do this. So I would love for you to collaborate together, write down and share at least one problem you solve for your customer. I'd like for you to write down one feeling that your customer might have as a result of that problem. How are they feeling? Why does that suck for them? And then what makes you stand out? And Amanda is going to help me break out into these groups, and I'm going to be popping in as I can to help you guys out.
All right, guys, so I am about to launch these rooms. They'll be 15 minutes long. We will put you in them. You can come back to the main room at any time when you guys are finished, but like Sarah said, she will be popping in and out. I'm gonna go ahead and launch those now. All right, Sarah, so I'm gonna assign you to a room.
And then I'll see how to jump out.
Let's see.
I can't believe I said that thing about my undergarments.
You're hilarious. All right, I just assigned you to a room. Welcome back, everybody.
Hi. Thank you all so much for bearing with us through this. I know it's so much trickier when we're doing it virtually as opposed to being able to swivel around in a group. So thanks for your patience and your grace here. It looks like we may have lost some people with the breakout rooms, but that's okay. Maybe it was my underwear story, I don't know. Would anyone like to share any findings from their breakout session? Went by so fast.
Feel free to unmute yourself if you want to share.
I guess in my breakout room, I talked to Rachel, and Rachel works at a video branding company, and Sheetal works for a pipeline company. And I can't remember everybody's answers, but the answer to the first question for mine, which was, what was the question? So a problem you can solve for customers. So I am attempting to make a blog or a blog/podcast, which no one listens to. But I guess if I was solving a problem for someone, it would just be, it's just kind of like trying to make people happy. It's not really for anything. I'm not putting ads in it or anything like that. And I understand that's not really a business thing, but a lot of people who do podcasts, it like leads to other stuff. So
yeah,
I guess for that was just my general takeaway from that, understanding that it might not be for something, but it can like build up to something else.
Or is it a personal podcast, Nina, that you're launching?
Yeah, I think it's just me talking. It's not based on anything quite yet. I have themes,
That's okay.
but it's a little shaky. Yeah.
Well, and if the question is how do I share, get people to listen to it? You know, that's a big question. That's a really broad question. So perhaps you might want to think, who would I want to listen to this? What, you know, it could be, who else would find joy and connection in the topics that you are talking about that are inspiring you to get creative.
Definitely.
and put that out there. And then once you've narrowed that down a little bit further, you could start to think about what's on their mind, what's on people's minds right now, and who might find really what's in it for them. For me, when I listen to podcasts, I just want to feel connected to another human on a topic that's interesting to me. I'm going on a walk. I'm getting out of the house for like the 1 or 2 times today that I get out of the house. I can't stare at a screen anymore. I want to hear a human voice. So if that's helpful.
Well, thanks for that feedback. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Elizabeth was sharing very briefly that she is a independent financial consultant, and helps business owners feel more at ease about delegating some of their accounting and their forecasting efforts, because money is scary. And so I wanted to share with the group what we were just really quickly going over, which is, I think the feeling that business owners feel related to their finances, small business owners, is stress and fear. I mean, especially, you know, in turbulent times as we find ourselves in now. And so Elizabeth is solving a problem as a trusted expert, somebody who knows what she's doing, who knows the ins and outs of accounting and finances, because that stuff is really complex. So I wanted to share that with you all as well. I thought that was a great example. And again, Elizabeth, happy to chat with you a little more afterwards if we want to break that down a little further, because we didn't get to the part of how are you unique, how are you special, and that definitely does play a key role into sharing with others why what you do is awesome. It goes into building some trust. So we spent most of this time talking about the value propositions in business, and I truthfully wasn't exactly sure how long this would take, because I've just been talking to myself, and then I did a run through with some very kind, trusting coworkers yesterday, and it went so fast, and this one did not. But there are definitely other times in life where value propositions come into play. Nina, you gave a great example about your podcast that you're creating. So I listed a couple of examples here, and going back to sell is human, about how as people we are constantly trying to move others. You might have come to On the Menu today, or you might come to the On the Menu series because it is an awesome opportunity to network. And I know it's harder to do that virtually than in person, but if you're building a professional network, You might be looking for a new job. You might be looking to, make new professional friends. And there's definitely a value proposition in there too. If you're interviewing for a new job, you're selling yourself. You're putting your best foot forward and wanting to share with that potential employer what skills you bring to the need that they have in that position and how you're different from all the other candidates. Speaking of the word candidate, it's 2020. We're going into an election year. You better believe that everybody out there who's running for office has a value proposition that they're offering, and what they're trying to get in exchange, the resources that they're trying to get people to part with are their votes and their voices, and then maybe even further dollars or campaigning efforts. And to that end, with dollars, if you're a fundraiser, if you are fundraising for a cause, and good Lord, there are so many causes available right now to fundraise on behalf of, or causes that are fundraising to meet a need, that's definitely a value proposition. I supported Campaign Zero this week, which is a fantastic organization I'd recommend you all check out, about how they are contributing to policy changes around police brutality towards people of color. Fantastic organization, and they've got a lot of excellent research and documentation available. And then a couple of others here. If anybody can figure out how to convince their child to eat broccoli, please let the rest of us know. I don't have human children. My dog actually loves broccoli. She's a weirdo. She just won't eat anything. But I'm curious if other people might have a non-sales example that brought them to the table today of where a value proposition, where they might be looking to learn more about a value proposition in your life. And you can unmute yourself and talk, that's okay. Or put it in the chat, whatever you're most comfortable with.
Sarah, this is not related to your question exactly, but I once read that, and I can't remember, maybe someone has also heard this and they'll know where I heard it, but if you want your child to eat broccoli, you tell them that it came from McDonald's. So,
okay.
I don't know. I don't have human children either, so your mileage may vary. Someone can try it, and I'll mute.
Well, we can definitely wrap it up and then move on to Q&A if there are any. I'd like to close this out by reminding you that anytime you are creating a value proposition, and I know it's a squirrely whirly concept because it definitely settles on these questions of why and these questions of the value exchange, and they're big questions. But as you're digesting this, just get really empathetic, stay really empathetic, and stay curious, and be constantly asking yourself, of who am I trying to move and why? Where do they hurt? How does that feel? And the more you can marinate on that, the more the closer you will get to a value proposition that is really centered around your customer. And I know it feels like you're thinking a lot about you and your offering and why it's great, but the best value propositions are centered around solving the customer's problem. So thank you so much for spending your lunch hour with me. Definitely available for questions if anyone has any. And my name is Sara Abernethy. Drop me a connect on LinkedIn, and I would love to stay in touch with each of you.
Thank you, Sara.
Thank you, Sara.
Oh, was I not sharing my screen? Crap. Oh well. Technology. There were just 2 slides that I missed. Bummer.
Thank you so much, Sara.